Welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Greg Gonzalez. My goal for the podcast is to help you live a better life in retirement by giving you the tools and information you need in a language that you can understand. At my company, St. Louis Retirement Advisors, we work with people not only in St. Louis that are over 50, but people across the country that are over 50 and are wanting to plan for a successful retirement. And that's what we do, kind of like a fishing guide or a tour guide. That's what we help our clients through that retirement journey. Maybe they're not yet retired and we're trying to get them to the finish line where every day's a Saturday and they can really enjoy the golden years of their life. I created this podcast about a year and a half ago in the summer of 2020 because I thought this would be a great resource for people out there that were looking for the advice and the guidance from a specialist, a retirement specialist, like us, like our company, where we help people every day that are in that season of life where they're trying to transition into retirement, but along the way, make all the smart decisions that they can so they have a bright future. So the discussions that we have on this podcast are truly about people that are 50 and older exclusively, and the decisions and questions that they have, what they're faced with, all of those challenges. You may find yourself in those same situations either now or in the future. So that's really the hope and the goal of the entire podcast. And we take listener questions. You can visit our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. A lot of the content for each episode comes from listener submitted questions to the website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. At the bottom, it'll say, Ask Greg a question, submit that, and we'll use your question as a topic, most likely, for a future episode of the podcast. And then something new that we've been trying to do for 2022, and we've done a couple of these so far, is for the people that want to dive a little bit deeper down to their personal situation and get a sense of, am I on track for retirement? Am I behind? What things should I be doing between now and then to get me on track for a successful retirement? We are offering a free assessment to those people that are not yet retired, but want an assessment of where they stand. And so on our website, you'll see up at the top, it'll say free assessment. And we're doing only 2 per month. And these are complimentary to our listeners. You have to be a podcast listener to get this. And so we are booked up for February. We will be scheduling into March. We'll have 2 different slots in the March timeframe. So go ahead and schedule your time if that's something that you're interested in. And it allows us to kind of help out our listeners on a more specific and personalized level. And really, how many podcasts can do that? Now, obviously, we're not doing 100 of these per month. We're just doing 2, but you have an opportunity as the listener to get a free assessment when it comes to your retirement. So check that out, the free assessment on our website. On this episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast, we wanted to talk about making 2022 the best year yet, to increase your productivity and your effectiveness in everything in life. And there's one tip that I can give you, and it's a story. It has made my personal life, my business life, I'm just so much more productive when I use this strategy. And then I'm going to share a study that was done in the Harvard MBA program about goal setting and why we're so big on helping our clients write down their goals when it comes to retirement. I want to retire at a specific date in time. And really, this study is going to show you why we are so specific about writing down our clients' goals when it comes to retirement. Because guess what? The majority of the time, and those goals may change, people do change their goals over time. But by writing down those specific goals, putting them in writing and discussing them to make sure we have them correct, they're as accurate as possible, it increases the likelihood of accomplishing those goals for our clients almost tenfold. Somebody like Brian Tracy is famous for saying putting pen to paper and writing down those goals specifically increases your chance of accomplishing those goals by 10 times. And it's something that very few people do. Very few financial advisors do that. But the reason why we do this is simply to enhance our odds of success, of accomplishing those goals in the first place, by being specific, writing down specific measurable goals. And I know some of you might be saying, oh, this is kind of getting hokey this episode. believe me, you'll want to stay tuned in. The studies and the stories behind this evidence, this data is absolutely fascinating. So let's jump right into this episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast, making 2022 the best year yet by these simple exercises. So this is a story that I used to share on our radio show years back, and I had emails and people that complimented me and thanked me for sharing this story because it had increased their effectiveness and what they got done day in and day out. And it seems so simple, but the story goes something like this. 75 years ago, there was a very, very wealthy guy. His name was Charles Schwab, no relation to the Charles Schwab brokerage firm, but this guy was the president of U.S. Steel. He was the founder of Bethlehem Steel, and he hired a guy by the name of Ivy Lee. This Ivy Lee was a consultant and actually went on to found one of the first U.S. PR firms. So Charles Schwab hired this consultant, Ivy Lee, and said, I'm looking for a recipe that's going to make me not only more productive, more efficient during the day, something that will really spike my productivity. And this guy, this consultant, Ivy Lee, said, I've got just the thing, just the strategy, the recipe you're looking for. He said, but the thing is you've got to do it consistently for 30 days. After the 30 days, you pay me whatever you think it's worth at that time, after you see the results for 30 days. But don't get started unless you're going to do it consistently for the next 30 days. Well, this Charles Schwab guy, he was the president of U.S. Steel, the founder of Bethlehem Steel. So he was a very high energy, overachiever type of guy, right? So he did it for 30 days. He followed this recipe for the next 30 days. He was absolutely blown away. And 75 years ago, he wrote this consultant, Ivy Lee, a check for $25,000. Now, $25,000 doesn't sound like a lot today, but $25,000 back then, 75 years ago, that's around $229,000 based on inflation, the time value of money. $25,000 75 years ago would buy what about $229,000 buys today. So what was this recipe and how is it worth $229,000 in today's dollars? So this recipe, here it is. What this consultant, Ivy Lee, had told Charles Schwab is, before you leave every day in the evening, write down the 6 top things, the most important things that you want to accomplish the next day in order of priority. So with number 1, that's going to be your top priority. Number 2, number 3, on down to 6, and call it your essential 6 things that you want to accomplish the next day. When you come in the morning, start working on 1 and work your way through the list all the way down to number 6. At the end of the day, before you leave for the evening, again, write down your new essential 6 day by day by day and do this for 30 days. He was blown away at the results. So we call this the essential 6. So I do this in my personal, my professional life. I write down every day my essential 6. And that's why at least one of the factors that makes me very, very productive on a day-to-day basis. It works, I'm telling you. Even on the weekends, I'll do it. Even if it's something as simple as maybe mowing the grass is one of the things on a Saturday that I'm trying to do. Go to the hardware store, go to the post office and mail a birthday card to my mother. Whatever it is, those essential 6, I always have the most productive, efficient day by looking back at my list and working off of that essential 6. Do it for 30 days, just like Mr. Schwab did it. I'm telling you, you'll be blown away. The next topic I wanted to discuss today was how we can increase the odds of accomplishing our goals, be it retirement or some other personal, professional goal that you might have. On this show, as the Retirement Made Easy podcast, we recommend that our listeners write down their retirement goals, just like we do for all of our clients. It may look like something like this. It may say, my goal is to retire at 62. My wife will be 61 in 2025. Our plan is to have a house that's paid off in XYZ city, and we'll have a condo in Destin, Florida. Our goal is to be able to live on X amount of dollars per month, live a financially independent and comfortable life for the next 30 years in retirement. And on top of that, we want or would like to take 1 to 2 significant, meaningful vacations every year that are planned out and affordable based on our resources. So it's very specific, and we want to see someone's goals be very specific. We're retiring at this age, this time. This is how much money we want to be able to live on in retirement, specifically this dollar amount. This is where we want to spend our time in retirement. We want to have a house that's paid for here, a condo in Destin. And it just kind of goes on and on like that. You can't say, we'll just retire when we get sick of working and hopefully we have enough money down the road and we'll kind of see if Social Security's there or not. That's not a specific, meaningful goal. So we try to be very specific with our clients. Let's write down your goals. Brian Tracy said, he's a very, very famous guy, motivational speaker and researcher. He's written over 100 books, I believe. He said, the act of writing down your goals, you increase your odds of achieving those goals by 10 times just by writing them down. And I kind of questioned that wisdom, but I shouldn't have. I really shouldn't have. I've listened to a lot of Brian Tracy. I've read a lot of his books. But there was some research that was done, and this is an old research here, 1979. In 1979, this was research done at Harvard MBA's program. So you're dealing with some very, very bright people here. And they looked at the graduating class in 1979 at Harvard's MBA program, and they asked all the graduating seniors one simple question. The question was, have you set written goals and created a plan for their attainment? Have you written goals down and have you created a plan to attain those goals? So some people may have written the goals down, but they may not have any plan to ever accomplish those goals. And other people, maybe they don't have goals and they certainly don't have a plan. And other people, maybe they've written down and they've written a plan of how they're going to accomplish those goals. So there are really three camps of people that they found in these graduating seniors. And what they found was 84% of Harvard MBA graduates in the 1979 class, they had no goals and no plans, obviously, to accomplish them. 84%. There was this second group of people. Yes, they had written their goals down. 13% of the graduates, 13% had written their goals down, but they never came up with a plan of how to accomplish those goals. There was a third group. This was the minority. 3% of the graduates, they had written their goals down and they had a plan on how they plan to accomplish those goals. This is where the study gets very, very interesting. And here is what I'm talking about. They followed up with all these graduates 10 years later. Again, there are three camps of people. People who 84% hadn't written down their goals at all, had no plan. 13% had their goals written down, but had no plan. And 3% of graduates that had written their goals down and had a plan, how to accomplish those goals. So 10 years later, they followed up back with these people, and they noticed that the second group of people that had 13% of the class that had written their goals down but had no plan, they were making 2 times as much as the 84% of the class that never wrote down their goals, obviously didn't have a plan of how to accomplish those goals. But the 3%, the minority that had both written their goals down and had a plan of how to accomplish those goals, they were making 10 times as much money as all the 97% of the class that didn't have both written goals and a plan to accomplish. Let me say that again. That 3% of the class that both had written their goals down and written a plan to accomplish those goals was making 10 times as much money as the rest of the class, the 97% that didn't fall in the same category. So what I love about this study is it says don't just write your goals down and stop. Write your goals down, and then you got to come up with an action plan of how you're going to accomplish those goals. Going back to my retirement analogy, so what we help our clients with, we want to also know their goals, but then we got to come up with a plan of action. We kind of got to put our heads together and brainstorm and say, okay, because you told me your goals were this, I recommend X, Y, and Z. And that's what your retirement plan is going to be. That's going to be the roadmap that's going to get you to your goals. And when it comes to retirement planning, it's one of the most important decisions that we make in our entire life because it's a transition point and you want to make sure that you're following a plan or a recipe that is based on when and how you want to accomplish that goal of retirement. And what we find is So many people just kind of save for retirement haphazardly, just without any direction. They're not following a plan. It's like a boat that's just kind of in the waves, just kind of going here and there. Depending on what the tide's doing is how the boat's moving. They're not following a plan. And a plan would be like that GPS that's designed. The point of the GPS is to get you safely into the harbor, right? It's trying to get you from point A to point B. And when that storm comes, you can still rely on that GPS. That plan still remembers where you're headed, where you want to go. And I find that in life, the more you plan ahead, the better the results are going to be. We booked a trip this last summer, my wife and I. We went to Alaska because my best friend was getting married in Alaska, and I wanted to be there for him. So we booked our trip, and it was, with COVID and everything, it was pretty challenging. And quite frankly, we didn't book far enough ahead. The rental car situation was a nightmare. Hotel bookings were a nightmare. The Airbnb, what a nightmare. But it was all because we didn't book far enough in advance. Looking back, as soon as I got that wedding invitation, I should have immediately RSVP'd and started booking things right away. It's the same thing with retirement planning. The farther that you can plan ahead, the better you're going to be, because maybe you need to take some course corrections between here and there, and they're very, very major or significant. I know I've talked about a lot of the mistakes that I see people make, and I'll continue to bring those up on future episodes. And I'm not trying to poke fun at anybody or anything like that. I just think these simple mistakes can really benefit the listening audience. So I hope this episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast has been helpful. The big mistake that people don't make is they don't create a plan for what they want to accomplish. It's just like the Harvard study that we went over. The 13% of the class, maybe they wrote down their goals, but where they failed is they had no plan of attack, no strategy of how they were going to accomplish those goals. And you can see, again, 3% of the class that wrote down their goals, specific goals, but also came up with a plan to accomplish those goals. Those were the most successful people, hands down. So that's what you want to do with your retirement plan. I would encourage you, if you don't have a retirement plan, start to build that retirement plan. I have a resource on my website. It'll help you with a goal setting. It's called A Couple's Guide to a Dream Retirement. If you're married, fill that out with your spouse. If you're single, you can fill it out by yourself. That will get you into the specific goal setting exercise. Then you have to come up with a retirement plan to accomplish that goal. That may involve hiring a retirement specialist like myself, or maybe you're working with a retirement specialist already. But you need to have a written plan that is handcrafted, that will show you and is designed to help you accomplish your goals, that shows you this is the strategy you're going to take to accomplish that retirement goal you have. I also hope that in your personal or professional life, you will start to use that list, that daily list called the Essential Six, where you work on the top priority item and move on down the list all the way down to number 6. You'll be much, much more productive every day and efficient. I promise you. I'll see you next episode for the Retirement Made Easy podcast. And remember, always dream big. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, please consult your attorney, tax advisor, or financial advisor prior to investing. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific investment. Your results may vary. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices mentioned are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. The SmartVestor program is a directory of investment professionals. Neither Dave Ramsey nor SmartVestor are affiliates of St. Louis Retirement Advisors or LPL Financial. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.